Okay, hello everybody. I'm Conquering History Games, and welcome back to the live stream we're still going through the After Midnight Warlords, and we're gonna hopefully finish them up today. Gosh, I don't know what's going on lately, but it's taking longer to connect the live stream. It seems like I'll hit start streaming. So for those of you who don't know, the way that live streaming on YouTube works is you hit start streaming, and then whatever software you're using has to then connect to the oh shoot, that reminds me, Streamlabs, but it then needs to connect to the to YouTube, and then YouTube will say, okay, you're connected, do you want to start the stream now? So you've got to start the stream on your software, and then you start the stream on YouTube. And it before, it just takes a couple of seconds because there's a latency thing. It's understandable. It takes a few seconds, but lately it's been taking like a minute, sometimes longer. Like last night, it took like 2 minutes to connect. So I'm not sure what that's about. But I was also going to set something up here, an overlay. Give me a second here. Oh shoot, I'm trying to remember where I went to do that though. Got it. No, not there. We'll go alert box maybe. That's the alert. Custom bad words. No. Hold on. Okay. Members, pledges. No, I'm looking for the thing where... Here we go. Donation goal. Got it. Okay. Yeah, so I haven't done a donation goal thing in like half a year since the capture card. I think that was in December or January. Okay, so we need to change this. The Doomer timeline is back. Oh yeah, it's Doomer. It's Doomer, baby. Okay, no, reset goal. No, settings, maybe? No. Manage the goal. How do I change the words? Settings. No. I know. I have to end goal. There we go. Okay, so title. We're going to call this Return to Monkey. Okay, how much does that shit cost on Steam? Store, Steam powered. We're gonna get started here, y'all, don't worry. Capital, Valkyrie. No. Weird. Where's the, ancestor thing? Strange. I could have sworn... Wait, hold a sec. I was going to set up a donation goal for if people wanted me to do a game on... Here we go. Yeah, there it is. Got it. Okay. So, figure with taxes. Okay. Return to monkey. What day is today? It's the 20th. Okay, so 0.00. Okay, copy the widget. Give me a second. Is it like a URL or window capture? I forget. Browser maybe. So let's call this donation goal. All right. Is that gonna work? Maybe not. Month, day, year. Oh. Start the goal. Okay, there we have it. Yes, return to monkey, as the kids like to say. So I do that, and then bring this, I don't know, over here-ish. Oh gosh, it's a little big and obnoxious though, isn't it? You know what? We can cover the generals, because we're not gonna be fighting. Oh, excuse me. Oh, is today 420? No, it isn't. Oh, it is. Wow. How about that? Nope. Oh no, I've been exposed that I don't blaze it up. Hold on a sec. Let's see. Let's shorten this to TMO. There we go. XD Weed Day. So I can get demonetized. All right. How about we actually start now? Get a sip of water. So this donation goal, this was brought up in an earlier stream. This is basically for the purchasing of the game Ancestors, the Humankind Odyssey. It's a game that came out last year where you play as like a pre-human clan and you guide them through evolution over thousands of years. It evolved them into being humans. Oh, excuse me. So, it's supposed to be interesting. But it seems to be divisive, excuse me. So I figured, well, if people want to donate, so I pick it up, then we'll play it. Simple as that. Alright. So, we finished up the Central Eurasian Republic. Now it's time to go to what? Republic of New Tomsk, we did that. So let's go to the Chelyabinsk Institute. Enigmatic, elitist, and shadowy. Isn't that a little further west? Yeah, that's a bit. We kind of leapfrogged a few of them there. But here we go. Oh yeah, this is Kardashev. I think this is the only possible leader that you could have in the regular Russian unification. But who manages to survive? Yeah. So let's get to it. You know what? Hold on. Let me change the name. It should be, instead of XD Weed Day, it should be Weed Day XD. The stars shine on with the moon and the star and the sun. Oh, wait. Hold on, wait. John Lennon's probably dead in this timeline. But really, what have we got here? Nikolai Kardashev lifted her head from the paperwork she had been working through all night. Through the full-length window, which replaced one of the walls of her office, countless dots of sparkling and shining lights contrasted against the pitch-dark and onyx-black tapestry of space. Even in the unending nightmare, which was now Russia, some things, like the enigmatic sky, would always stay constant. Where the factories and apartment blocks littering the Siberian municipality would once years ago shine with industrial floodlights late into the darkest hours of the night, that was now utter darkness. The nighttime glow and buzz was what had previously eclipsed the stars above. It was only with their extinguishing that she could see their radiance. The city, and purportedly many others, had been cut off from the power grid for weeks as the nation fell into utter chaos. Hunger and poverty was everywhere, even more so than under that madman Tabaritsky's empire, and there was not enough food or even water to go around. Would Chelyabinsk or Russia ever heal from the 3 injuries she had been afflicted with, the 2 great patriotic wars, and now the lunatics' rule? Yet in spite of the crushing sorrow and despair all around her, Kardashev stayed hopeful. Like the stars she glimpsed, there were those things which would be eternal and unchanging. The days of dictators and tyrants, of Tabaritskys and Hitlers, would eventually pass with time, and Russia would rebuild what was left of herself. They always did, and they will again. Through it all, it would be science, knowledge, enlightenment, and all the good virtues of truth which would prevail without fail. Its survival here in Chelyabinsk was the strongest proof she could have asked for. She merely hoped her own efforts would not be wasted. Hope still survives. Hello there, socialist. Okay. I went back to the time where rap first began. I left behind the... Oh, dang it. Sorry, I was listening to this song and it's been stuck in my head. Okay. Building the base. How many days rations do we have left in our in case our deliveries cease? Hold on a sec, I lost where we are. We're right here. The minister shuffled through the stack of documents in front of him. We're not sure. Any new findings on the equipment Tabaritsky left us? Not much. And how about the refugees coming in from the west? How many are there? Where are they being kept? We don't have data on that either. Kardashev's head throbbed with a migraine as she considered the information her ministers had presented to her, or more aptly, the absence of information which they had been informed of. She knew the path to building a utopia would be a rocky one filled with countless obstacles and hurdles, and whose diverging paths would be fogged and unclear. But there would at least be some direction to her labors. Excuse me. Without any solid information as to of what was actually going on in Chelyabinsk, even how the road should begin was unknown. Kardashev, after all, was devoted to science. She was a career physician, and what did science value most? Data. Without it, what could she and her ministers know for certain? Without it, how could even the most simple jobs be performed optimally? How could she know whether their policies were actually working as intended or delivering results? She dismissed the council, telling them once more to brainstorm ways to accrue data, and reminding them of the importance of the first task of the Institute. Yet in everyone's minds there, dread had settled. Dread of not being able to live up to their dreams, of failing to make something better out of the ruins of old Russia, of leaving the sick and the tired to their damned fates. Hope still survives, but is bleak. Excuse me, I just got like something, just kind of hem in my throat, Let's go. At least she's optimistic. Okay. The very high NKVD influence has been removed because it's no longer relevant. It's no longer relevant. Behind the floors of sand of the endless world up there. And this burden crashing down me somewhere to where how finally... Stop it! For the future. The conference had been called by Comrade Kardashev. I just gotta gargle a little bit. How about that, flag, by the way? It looks like an album for Elephant Gym. Well, okay. Now, the conference had been called by Comrade Kardashev to discuss the direction that the newly found Chelyabinsk Institute should follow, as well as the needs of the citizens of the city. Amongst those assembled were formerly seasoned politicians and officials from the local government of Chelyabinsk prior to the conquest of West Siberia. The handful of competent bureaucrats and administrators still left in the area, and Kardashev's kindred scientists and experts, excuse me. Flags the logo of an off-brand C++++ in this timeline. Yeah. The debate began with the hunger crisis. With the black void of data they had, it was difficult to properly formulate a response. No one really knew what the people were going through, how severe the shortages were, or how many were affected by them. The conclusion of the conference was that the crisis was very severe, if only taking into account official importation of food as reported at the border. But was realistically less severe, a statement which in no way could give any information on the actual availability of food for the average citizen. Then there was the matter of allocating other resources, goods not required for survival, but greatly important to the functioning of modern society, such as gas for heating and electricity. Those needs, however, came not just from the citizens, but also from industry and commercial entities, as well as the government. How were they to be distributed? Again, lack of information was a critical issue, as the committee didn't know what areas were most severely lacking in said resources, nor agreed on what needed it most. For instance, Kardashev's scientist clique were fond of using calculations and planning to allocate resources to the mathematically most important channels. For instance, industry for production of other important goods, perhaps at the expense of the commercial sector or some parts of the population. In the end, the conference only solidified the need for a thorough census and survey to gather information, resulting in little actual change in policy or opinion among the governing committee of the Institute. Reality is often disappointing. Okay, interesting. The Dissentor. The Central Planning Committee was made today of a young officer in the NKVD. This is hurting loyalty to Lazarenko, but Lazarenko's not a thing. That's okay. Probably something a little buggy. That's fine. These things happen. Give us the future. Dmitry had welcomed Kardashev in the Institute when they announced it into Tabaritsky's mad and tyrannical rule over Chelyabinsk and the establishment of a new civilian government. Her brother had died to the Tabarite chambers of the Empire, and she had only narrowly escaped the grip of the regent's government through wit and sheer luck. Though they seemed a little out of touch and idealistic, Dmitry didn't care as long as she wasn't hunted down for minor infractions or gassed for being distantly related to a Freemason. They promised to rebuild the city, to provide for its people, and to establish a new society, and who could disagree with that after years of suffering and anguish? Yet it was too good to be true. Her initial impression of the scientist clique being elitist and aloof turned out to be correct. It had been months since they took over the city, but basic access to food and water was still rare in his neighborhood, while officials proclaimed that progress was being made and spouted on and on the same rubbish about sacrifice. If any change was happening, she definitely wasn't seeing it. Give us bread! Certainly neither were the thousands who marched with him in protest to petition the government to allocate more food, medicine, and gas to the needy. He was one of the luckier ones. He wasn't malnourished or ill as many others in the crowd were, but he had seen his neighbors and relatives struggle to get by. That was why he'd chosen to take action and join the protest, organized by workers who had been disgruntled with shortage after shortage. He had had his own fair share of starvation during the reign of Tabaritsky and had only recently been able to have real meals again. Others had not been so fortunate, and their pain had not been soothed by Kardashev taking power. What is with them? Dun 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 dun. Dum bum 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 bum. Dun 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 dun. Okay. Let's pause that. Fatal error. Having forcefully opened the door to the cabinet room, Kardashev was greeted by her knights of the Round Table, her ministers, and advisors. Taking her seat at the front, one member in charge of security for the Institute cleared her throat. So, Comrade Kardashev, I assume you have called us here for... He waved his hand out the window, gesturing vaguely at the masses outside. For that. Yes. What's all the commotion about? They've gotten far more militant today, and my secretary told me they tried to break in. An awkward silence cast itself across the room. The security minister finally piped up after several long moments. It has to do with last night. He nodded at the other two representatives of the security forces in the room. To give you the long and short of it, amidst the tension in the protests yesterday, a few of our men got spooked and opened live fire. 6 confirmed dead as of right now, and 3 others severely injured as a direct result of their actions. The room was silent, stunned for a moment before it broke out into frenzied discussion and whispers between members next to each other. One advisor, an esteemed scientist, spoke up, his face blanched. This will be a PR disaster for us, Comrade Kardashev. if what Somaliev is saying is true. PR disaster? Are you hearing yourself? We have the blood of 6 people on our hands. I understand it's a tragedy, comrade, but we must... But what? Can you think of anything other than our reputation or control for once? She raged. The point of the Institute was to help the people, to build a society based not only on material truth, but on the needs of the many. But if this is how we're treating our citizens, I don't see how we could live up to that. Is the dream dead? Alright, done. Moving on to the next one. Next up is the Trans-Ural Confederation. Sounds like they're having some problems over there at the Institute, which is right next door. Under Memosurov. Memories of Heroism. Oh yeah, this was the one who survived and went into the hills and now has come back. Once, the foundation of a nation would have been met with fanfare, excitement, and hope from its populace. Within the cities of Perm and Zalust, however, in its outlying towns and villages, however, there was only silence. It was a melancholy silence, one that had been born of the terror of the mad regent's regime. Where once people of these lands had held hope from within their hearts, now there was nothing but a silent resolve. In the small town of Mezgori, Hajit Umar Masurov stood before a small crowd of former Ural Guard, NKVD, and Third Army soldiers, along with many natives of the region around Mount Yamantau. She was there to be sworn in as the first president of the newly formed Trans-Ural Confederation. To her left, her adjutant gave her a thumbs up. Within the lands under the tentative control of the Confederation, the masses huddled around old radios to hear their leader's speech. The old soldier steadied herself before beginning her speech. I have never been one for speeches, so I will try to keep this brief, she began. It has been only scant months since the unification of Russia under the boot of the mad regent. Yet in that time, her dogs have brought untold ruin to the people of Russia. Thousands slaughtered in this mad quest for a dead child. Now she is dead, and the long road to recovery has begun. Thank you, Franchan. Hope your day goes well, too. I stand here today not simply as your leader, no. I stand here as merely a man chosen to lead you through the night and into a better dawn. She stopped there and weighed her next words carefully. When next she spoke, she swore an oath before God and the people of the Confederation that unknowingly mirrored one made by the founder of the Ural League years before her. She pledged an oath of servitude to the people and spoke with passion in her heart that she would fight to her dying breath to protect them. This oath would be sworn by every one of her successors until the day finally came for the Confederation to end, for better or worse, to serve Russia. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Come on. Come on. Okay. Here we go. Whoa. Few noticed when the small group departed the Confederation's borders. There was, after all, no shortage of refugees amidst the chaos of the regent's fall. They had a purpose, a goal, one driven by faith and gratitude for and toward whom they all considered the greatest man any ever met. That man was Yanis Medrix. To him, all of them, whether Blot or Pole or any other, had been first and foremost victim of the Soviet state's infamous gulags. They all remembered well the hardship, the senseless violence, the deprivation, and above all the hopelessness felt when shackled within them. In the fall of the state to the Germans, however, they had gained their freedom, something they had at that point and little better than animals themselves had little use for. They all knew how close they had been to the edge. How am I doing, CHG? I'm okay. I got a spider bite I'm dealing with. Like nothing lethal, but it's like just irritating my skin. Until Mendrix had showed them a better way, shown them that they could cooperate and fight to protect God's children, and doing so save themselves from darkness. Through the years of fighting with the Ural League, they had all seen ample evidence of that darkness. Indeed. Even so, none of them had been prepared for the horror that was Tabaritsky's Russia. But using the principles Mendrick had imparted to them, they had all survived by helping and fighting for each other. But they had needed a mission, a purpose, and they had found it. They intended to travel to Rome. It would be a long and difficult journey through inhospitable terrain and dangerously unstable statelets across the ideological spectrum. But they would do it or die trying. For all they knew in their heart of hearts that Mendrix was truly a saint, it only needed to be made official. They would ensure it was. There is no man more deserving. Okay. So, I wanted to kind of also pitch another idea to y'all. Oh, no. No, it's fine. It's just like, it's just got this irritant on my skin, so it's just kind of annoying. Like an itch you can't really scratch. I've definitely seen and felt worse. I wanted to ask you guys, what would you guys think about me doing, because a game that was based around Chernobyl, and it's like a horror game. What do you think? You think that's a history game? Just justice be done. Because, like, in between when we're reading this stuff, we might as well, start thinking about what May is going to look like on the channel. Colonel Roman Ulyanovich Bolsonov had seen better days. He had been tasked by his higher up in the Ural Purification Zone to lead a raid on the degenerates of Jews that had taken over Perm and Zalust, and at first the operation was a success. The village they had descended on had no idea what hit them. However, they were surrounded and picked off by bastard Ural guardsmen. Stalker, I don't know what Stalker is. Ural guardsmen and some remnant of Batov's lot. Now he sat, beaten and bruised by his captors as some mongrel whore read off a list of his so-called crimes. Haj Dumar Mansurov presided over the first of many trials that would set an important precedent for the future of the Confederation. When the bastard Colonel Belusnov had been dragged before her, she had been ever so tempted to simply have the man executed out of hand. He had been personally responsible for the deaths of thousands of Russian citizens since he joined the Shtumorovki, and Mansurov would have liked nothing more than to put a bullet into him herself. But that wasn't the right court of action. And so she had authorized military trials for Bolsonov and those of her men that survived, or his men that survived the fighting outside of Perm. Of course, for all that this was a legitimate trial, the verdict was never in question. Roman Ulyanovich Bolsonov, you have been brought before this tribune to answer for your crimes against the people of Russia. You stand accused of treason, murder, extortion, and the use of poison gas on civilian populations. How do you plead? I admit to no crime. This trial is a farce controlled by Jews and mongrels. You will all burn in hell for your actions, the man raved. His defense lasted 3 long hours of long-winded spew before a verdict was called. This court finds the accused guilty of all charges. Justice for the vanquished. Right. Well, yeah, the reason I was bringing these things up, though, is because I've been getting offered some free games. Definitely a lot that don't always, like, fit my, what would be the term? They don't fit my criteria of stuff. Like Festival Tycoon doesn't really seem like the way to go. So, for a higher cause. Bring me to him, said Mamasurov, and the aide led him through the station halls, past the gawking officers and recruits into the quiet room used normally for interrogations. Today it served a different purpose, a welcoming room for an esteemed guest. The door closed behind Memsurov, and she regarded the weathered figure who once owned this land like it was his mansion. Mikhail Kalashnikov, Memsurov began, and the man wearily raised his head in acknowledgement. Kalashnikov was not as Memsurov had seen in so many reels of footage, so many pictures of parades and factories. To say he'd lost weight was an understatement. His cheekbones jutted from his face, highlighting his sunken eyes, and his winter jacket loosely hung from his hunched form. A scar dragged itself across his cheek, trailing off at his jawline, making Mamsurov wince on instinct. I wish we could have met under better circumstances. I do too, comrade. I do too, comrade. Kalashnikov's voice was low and quiet, and a silence hung in the air as both men considered their next words. I suppose this is not just a friendly meeting. I'm afraid not, Mamsurov pulled an envelope from her pocket. Our engineers could use training from a designer with your level of skill. Lord knows we need the weaponry with the madmen we call our neighbors. Payment will be... Payment? Kalashnikov looked up with the most force Mamsurov had seen out of the man so far. You think I still care about payment? Look at me. Look at my... He raised his right hand, showing the stumps of what were once figures. I'm old. I'm dying. I couldn't give less of a shit about payment. The least I could do is teach those to come after me how to build a rifle. He paused, taking a deep, rattling breath. God damn it, they're gonna have the best rifle man's ever made if I have anything to do with it. Even the merchant puts his greed aside in these times. Outlawed slavery, open immigration, racial integration. What are their LGBTQ laws? Outlawed! AK-47-2 confirmed. Yeah. Here's to you, Nicola and Bart. Rest forever here in our heart. Wait, probably not that. The last 20 years of Yasha Korolev's life had been nothing more than an excruciating, humbling experience for what was once a simple, no-life bandit consigned to back-breaking work in a gulag. Bedrix and the other soldiers took him in. A no-life thief, and shaped him into a man with something to live for, something to protect. The Yasha of old wouldn't ever sacrifice anything for anyone, but Yasha remembers vividly and proudly the memories of hastily assembling sandbags on an abandoned house. The faint memories of Derwillinger's pillagers' cars roaring in the distance. Success was hard on, and almost made up the loss of part of his ear to a stray shot that day. Then the damnable Ragent, thank you Socialist for getting the reference, then the damnable Ragent and her twisted corpse of an empire came. They've tried their best, they really, really did. Yasha pushes his wheelchair, one of the wheels slightly rusty and harder to push than the other, and one of the tires clearly empty, and yet was nothing short of a commodity around these parts. Half his face was permanently paralyzed, making it fairly awkward to breathe with only one active nostril. His legs are gone, replaced by wooden pegs and burns across his body. Yasha looks much older than any 40-odd-year veteran has any right to be. Yet he's alive, and as he lowers a wreath with his good arm, surrounded by veterans like him covered in their war tales, he can't help but cry as the memories flood the young yet aged soul. The statue is a recent thing, built from the remaining rubble, the fruits of a surviving sculptor fled from the harrowing shadow that beheld what remained of his home in Sverdlovsk. Depicting a man he never met, that he heard tales from other veterans and came to admire as much as did Mendrix himself. Pavel Betov, cradling a dying Ural Guards soldier, a scene he came to see so many times. With immense effort, he did one shaky salute to the patriot he never met, but felt he knew for ages. Your agony is our triumph. So I was right, yes. Here's to you, Nicola and... Hold on. Alright, so we gotta do... we've got to now go to the free Cossack clans. So now we're gonna whip back. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, here's to you, Nicola and Bart. Rest forever here in our hearts. The last and final moment is yours. That agony is your triumph. We are now the Free Cossack clans, who are actually conservative Democrats. And they've got to the Kazakh states. It was reoccupied for only a few short years. It was incalculable. Tribal identities were erased overnight. Population centers. It'll be long decades before the legacy of Tabarisky's genocidal imperialism is erased from Central Asia. Forever free. The people stood in the rubble of what was once their old village. Where there was once life and laughter, there was only silence and the remains of horrors long dead. But the people were not here today to mourn the destruction of their lands and families. The chemicals that had been lingering around the area of their old home had finally cleared, and the Cossacks had returned to rebuild. They had brought with them foodstuffs, tools, and lumber. The people had survived the simmering hatred of Holy Russia, and as the sun rose over the Aral Sea, they got to work, for the dead wouldn't waste time either. Why so few viewers? Well, it's the middle of the work week and the middle of the work day. And I'm probably putting weed in the descriptions not helping. I'll get rid of that. Yeah, but also I think a lot of people, the people who watch this also know, it's like, oh, he's still just reading. I could just check that later. There's not going to be any wars happening. Wait, what was the thing that it just said? Oh yeah, the dead. Oh yeah, right, yeah. Reminds me of that one "Say Anything" song. You know, failure is angular. It isn't circle shaped. Every fucked mistake I've made when I abandoned her. I cast a. Wait, no. When I abandoned her. And with my wand-like sex, I cast a horrid hex. I laid a curse on her. Oh, wait, no, it's the second verse that has the song lyric I was thinking of. It goes, I could be more than this. With all the time I have, I am an insult to the dead. Yeah, there we go. Standing on the banks of the Jakartis filled Wait, hold on, we're over here. On the Jakartis. Really? It goes that far north? Let me check that. Jakartes River. Does it really go this far north? Also known as the Seer River. I'm checking this. Hold on. Oh, I guess I got this mixed up with a different river. Yeah, that's this river here, the one that comes out of the Aral Sea. So, standing on the banks of the Jakartes filled Hanifa with a feeling that she hadn't experienced in a long time. Peace. For the first time in months, she felt like she could take a moment to just breathe. The regime of the Mad Regent was gone. No Russians were coming to conquer them again. For so long, war had been a constant as they fought each other, only to weaken themselves when the Russians had invaded, enslaved, and slaughtered them. They had never both been unified or free before. Now, maybe that could change. The remaining families and clans alive had managed to come together, resolving to settle on the Jakartes and survive. Others had soon followed or found them arriving from the east. What had once been a few dozen survivors had turned into hundreds. Tents had been erected, routines established, and slowly they had all begun to heal. There only remained the lingering question, what now? Their homes were destroyed, their land poisoned, and their people slaughtered by the Russians, but they were now free. No regents, no tyrants, no dictators controlling them. The clan leaders had started speaking about starting something new, a new Kazakhstan, free, independent, whole, a new dawn from the nightmare they had emerged from. There were still threats, some of those who had come from the west and had warned of Cossacks who were led by butchers, who emulated the Mad Regent and his propensity to slaughter. However, Hanifa was surprisingly calm, as were many others. These people were driven by rage and hate, much like the Regency had been. It was unsustainable, and like the Holy Russian Empire, it would destroy itself in time. And when it did, a new, free Kazakhstan would rise. A deal of hope. Farewell to all the earthly remains. No burdens, no further debts to be paid. Was that just me? I wonder what's going to happen, though, because you got the Cossack Purification Army. Are we going to end up fighting one another out here? To fight the flames of hate. Aida's hands remained steady as she placed the shell in the mortar tube. Muscle memory from hundreds of repetitions saved her despite her nervousness using live materials. Finally, she finished and fired it. She was rewarded with the sight of an explosion a short distance away. She let out a sigh of relief, proud of herself for managing in the live fire exercise. A number of other explosions sounded as the other women in her unit did the same. "Begin!" Officer Rostomov ordered. He was an old veteran of the Cossack Red Army, a man missing an eye and with a patchy beard. He had been heavily involved in drilling the militia units that had been formed in recent weeks, the genocidal men to their west, and the concern that what emerged from the remnants of Russia may attempt to reclaim Kazakhstan had driven the need to have a fighting force, even if it had to be built from the ground up. There was no shortage of volunteers, and thanks to the amount of weapons and ordnance that had been left behind or abandoned by the Russians, they didn't have to worry about supplies. It wasn't enough for an army, but it was enough for them. She'd barely known how to fire a gun, but the vivid memories of the Russians invading and being unable to fight back had instilled in her a desire to never be helpless again. If there was ever another army that marched upon them, be they from the west or north, at least she'd die fighting back. Twilight turned the sky orange, and after a few more hours of drills, they were sufficiently tired. Rustemov ordered them to stop. "Drills are done for the day. Take a rest. You've earned it." Aida and the rest of the women smiled. Rustemov was tight-lipped with his compliments, so hearing one was gratifying. "Yes, sir!" She brought up a hand in salute, echoed by the others, and turned to leave, chatting with each other, with rifles slinged over their shoulders. And when she glanced back, she swore she saw him smile. Okay. Whatever. This, I guess. That poverty rate. It's bad, it's bad, it's bad. Come on. Hey there, Potato Man. Scorched earth and shattered minds. Nothing grows here anymore. The earth has become callous, blistered, grotesque. Not even the most stubborn of weeds could take roots. Hills roll in a simmer writhing agony, scattered with shocks and scars of gaunt trees. Putrid air clouds the ground and clings tight to the direction of the wind. If one were to continue their journey, they may find the remains of a granary, once home to vast quantities of golden wheat, its color soft as summer sun. All carefully deposited by a farmer's toughened hands. A home would have been close by. It would have been filled with all the things this farmer loved in this world. Now it too stands abandoned, inhabited by nothing but the same unrelenting toxic atmosphere. Few refugees can be sustained. Those that do cling to life in the carcasses of old towns, with supplies dwindling and fears rising. Many have instead come to embrace a nomadic life. Reliving the customs of the skin, they return to the earth, scraping away at whatever they can find. These people spend their days in shock with nothing to sustain their future, but their nation prevails as a dim spirit haunting its hollow land. Potato Man. Though the plagues brought in by the invaders tore their land apart, they managed to persist. Though their muscles ache and minds yearn to escape, they persist. In the death of the old, new life emerges, mirroring that which came before, and so they persist. This land was not home to Kazakhs alone. Even since before the recent vile deluge swept the ground bare, there had been Russians living alongside them. Though they may not have always been peaceful, they had grown accustomed to each other's existence. The Russians had been as much victims of the indiscriminate carnage as the Kazakhs. They had been strewn far across the steppes, cut off from the past, all those who had survived at least. Loss was as arbitrary through the screens as a marauder from beyond the border had been. It was impossible to find a group that had not been. All flesh is grass. Fair amount of events here, it seems. Oh, stretch and stretch. Oh, ooh. Black market order failed. What's this like little sliver here? National Socialism. I think 1%. Yeah, National Socialism. Okay, uprooted. This land was not home to Cossacks alone. Even since before the recent vile deluge swept the ground bare, there had been Russians living alongside the natives. Excuse me. Just got some. You know what? I gotta deal with whatever's in my throat. I'm gonna be right back. I gotta like go gargle again or something. Okay, I'm back. This land was not home to the Cossacks alone. Of course, this delicate condition was doomed to not last. The Russians had been as much victims of the indiscriminate carnage as the Cossacks, despite the ravings of those who had caused the carnage. Everyone had been strewn throughout the steppes, cut off from the past and held hostage by the present. All those who had survived, at least. Those few who were left were now subjugated by the terrible specter of the future. Small bands of refugees are all that remain of the Russian communities. They hobble across the landscape in the same way their Cossack neighbors now do. However, their lives are plagued by a constant uncertainty worse even than the Cossacks. They can never tell where they will be welcome or if another band mistakes them as an enemy. The relentless anxiety of the land hounds them. With little left to choose, one by one, they settle down in attempts to live off the land. Their new way of life melting into the pastoral culture of the Kazakhs. Soon the ways of these two people will be indistinguishable, and through this, in spite of all they've endured, they will live on. Russia will not be separated from the Russians. Okay. Next up, the Brotherhood of Cain. Oh boy. Yeah, people are going to like this one, I think. Yes, Abaddon. Evil Unbound, monthly population minus 75%. Only the worst... Wait, let's read this real quick. Only the worst of the SS could hope to match Abaddon's followers in cruelty and sadism. Serial killers and nihilistic brutes are the vaulted elite of this new society. Their inhumanity cloaked in religious fervor border the old commander's charismatic ravings against a world gone mad. The gamers. Madness Manifest. Nikolai paced down a dark hole, escorted by two men in black silken robes. Their identities hidden behind black veils. All was silent but the soft click of her footsteps. Or no, this is he. Demons danced behind every shadow. The souls of the damned whispered in his ears. The door ahead lay open, blinding him with the orange light and heat of 1,000 burning lanterns. There sat the high priest upon his Gothic throne, peering down at Nikolai from behind his ram skull mask. Nikolai fell to his knees and touched his forehead to the hallowed ground. The robed men raised their lanterns and in dry monotone chanted, Regis Satanas, Ave Satanas, Abaddon, Dirgis Nos. Rise, initiate, the high priest ordered. At once Nikolai stood, locking eyes with the slender figure before him. His old commander was unrecognizable. The skin around her eyes was sullen. Her gaze was dull. Her expression hollow. The woman who Nikolai had once known as Colonel Anatoly Motsnev was nowhere to be seen. In her place, only a soulless vessel sustained by dark sorcery. Yeah, check that manpower count. Abaddon, the archangel of destruction, the progeny of Cain. Nikolai was silent, straining to disguise her growing terror as the high priest rose from her throne and placed a dagger in her hand. Though her heart brimmed with fear and her soul cried in agony, she gripped it tightly. Nikolai slid the steel blade across his own chest, wincing as he tore a piece of flesh from his body. He clenched it in his fist, hesitating only for a moment before placing it onto his tongue. Abaddon held a silver chalice to Nikolai's chest, pressing it firmly against the wound. The blood thickened even as it rushed to fill the vessel. Nikolai grasped the chalice, putting it to his lips that he may receive the unholy commune. Rege Satinas. That Nikolai began, blood oozing from his torso and sliding down the back of his throat. Ave Satanas Abaddon Dirges Nos. The high priest slid a finger over Nikolai's bleeding chest and marked his forehead with the Petrine cross. Welcome, initiate, to the... let's call this the Sisterhood of Cain. From hell hath a new Russia risen. So we're also deranged cult. Never before in the history of the world has Satanism expanded beyond a fringe cult, but times have changed and the world is tilted on a diagonal. Though most of the Sisterhood's members are little more than ordinary bandits, the ideology of their insane leader is slowly but surely proliferating down the ranks. Someday the name of Satan will be praised throughout Omsk without a hint of irony. Yeah, so some friends and I, we once went to go see Slayer when they came, and also Anthrax was there. That's what I really wanted to see. But yeah, we saw Slayer when they came to El Paso for a concert. I think this was in 2016. And we just kept joking about like, hey man, how you doing? Hail Satan. You know, it's like, hey, how has Satan helped you out today? You know, because we went to a metal concert. We're devil worshippers. The sorcerer's plea. She pulled against the chain, screaming as the masked man lifted a dagger over her. He jammed it into her abdomen, holding it tight as he sawed upwards. Blood and bile seeped into the marble altar and splattered over the floor. Her screams were reduced to wheezing. Her motions became slow and feeble. "Hear me, Lord!" the masked man yelled, pressing his hands against the hilt and cracking open the woman's sternum. "Oh, sweet Lord, hear my prayer!" He reached into the chest cavity, wrapped his fingers around her still pounding heart. The muscle gurgled as he squeezed. Its tendons tore like fabric, and it's Abaddon raised the cradle of the woman's soul in front of her dying eyes. "I have listened, my lord. With this I honor thee." A symphony rang in her ears, an unholy screeching that grew louder and louder. "I am here, my lord, I am here!" The notes twisted in her head, a concerto of strings and flutes, rising and descending in pitch, cutting out and returning, slowing and quickening. Her limbs quaked. The heart fell from her hand. Demons pressed against her skull. Her eyes tried to fly from their sockets. Her bones were possessed by an otherworldly force. Energy escaped her body. Belts of electricity cracked between her temples. "Almighty Lucifer, where have you gone? Adonai's agents defile your soil. The Jew lovers pray before his idols. They rally behind his false prophets. Lend Russia your strength. Lend Russia your vengeance. O morning star, give me your instructions." The roar of clarinets were the lies of the apostles, each trumpet blast an angel's curse, but through the degenerate noise a lone voice still turned to the heart on the floor. The spattering of blood told the paths ahead, every drop a warning, every smear an instruction. It all became clear. It was not spirits of the underworld, but the shepherd of sin above who must consecrate the new era. The burden of her duty pressed down on her spine, for how could any one woman found New Babylon? And in her was found the blood of the prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. So, you're scare-roused, Kipsu, of course, one of the hornier members of my chat. You know what? I will admit, though, I did see something the other day, and I was just going, uh-oh, this is awakening something in me. So have you guys ever heard of the concept of the kabedon? It's where it's like a Japanese term. I think it means like wall bang, but it's the term for when, you know, you go up to somebody you like and, you know, you just get them against the wall and you slam your hand next to the wall, you know, just like, hey there. And you just go like, you and me Friday night or whatever. But I saw somebody made an animation of Ina doing that with I guess she used this language and she changed her voice at some point in one of the streams, and you know, for me she's like HoloLife's Bob Ross, just like this kind of ASMR. We're just you know, we're just working on a you know, drawing things, and it's soft and calming. But then this happened, and I will admit I was just uh-oh, something's being awakened in me.
Oh yeah, such a cute takorachi made its way over here. Oh yeah, such a cute takorachi made its way over here. Oh yeah, such a cute takorachi made its way over here.
It's like I wasn't ready for this.
Oh yeah, such a cute takorachi made its way over here.
Just, oh goodness gracious. Here we go. Anyway, let's get back to it, shall we? So that would be an example, I guess, of scare-roused. Let's see here. I think I once saw this comic, and it was something as like when you've seen too much anime and somebody tries to bully you, and it was a little comic of like this little nerdy kid, and then the bully comes up to him and, you know, does that, gets him against the wall and slams the hand. He's like, hey kid, give me your lunch money. And then the nerdy kid just reaches up and kisses the bully. And it's just like, I don't know what's happening. Anyway, Dark Delights. They offered him bread when his fields lay barren. Warm shelter when his stove had no coal. Answers for why his world fell apart. The names of those to blame. They promised to make the enemies of Russia suffer. Promised him revenge against all who had wronged him. He was suspicious, but he was angry. He was uncertain, but he was hungry. And so Vladimir joined the Brotherhood of Cain. Warriors, cried his commander on the eve of his first raid. The true Lord calls your names. Revel in his glory. His fellow soldiers practically jumped to their feet, cheering and laughing as they burst out the door, and Vladimir followed behind them. Tobacco smoke filled his nostrils. Terrified screams and celebratory laughter filled his ears. Drinks filled goblets and soldiers sang. The warriors of Cain beat and whipped the assembled slaves with no regard to their race or gender. You see, Satan's not a racist. Every scream or cry became a prayer for the coming raid's success. They defiled holy icons with blood and piss, sniffed strange powers to summon strength for the battle, stripped each other naked and screamed hymns to the morning star and bliss. Vladimir's mind was flooded with memories of piety, how proud he was to be confirmed, his mother's tales of the ancient Hebrews. The hand of God reached down to Vladimir, he whose soul was still not corrupted, he whose mind was still bound by empathy. But the fires of temptation burned in his loins. The serpent's words coursed through his spirit. Why did God watch as his family was shot? Why did he do nothing as the arch-Jew trampled Russia? Where was he when Moscow fell? Abaddon appeared beside him, the voice of Lucifer herself on her tongue. Why are you not reveling, brother? Have you forgotten what Adonai has done? Have you forgotten our communion? Contempt boiled within him. Years of prayer unanswered. Decades of suffering uncompensated. He stared into the writhing mass of flesh and sin, his soul now resolute. He downed a goblet of wine and grabbed the whip. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Alright, let's keep going. Come on, come on. The pit. Gennady knelt before his shrine, an image of the holy... Excuse me. Gennady knelt before his shrine, an image of the Holy Mother sketched with charcoal, adorned with crude candles from scrapes of animal fat. It was all he could scrounge without being spotted, all which he had to honor the Lord. The young priest wept, praying between each sniffle, "I'm sorry, God. I've tried to maintain my courage to hold your blessings in my heart at all times, but I have failed. I'm grateful for my life, eternally thankful for your blessings, but I am tired. I am weak. I am a coward and a sinner. I beg for your forgiveness. I am so sorry." Gennady stood and walked into his bedroom. He unholstered his pistol and prayed he would reunite with his wife in heaven. Oskane held a bucket in her hand, carrying water so that her sickly mother would not have to. A headscarf wrapped around her, a pallid seraphim lay over her. She walked with her head down and prayed that she could go home safely, but she felt the eyes of Lucifer's agents along her back and the grinding of wheels behind her. A truck stopped, a claw grabbed her arm, the bucket spilled into the dirt. She could smell the alcohol on their breath and sense the smiles behind their masks. They bound her with rope, stabbed a syringe into her arm, and threw her into the truck. Valeri's joints groaned. His rigid footsteps led him behind a line of emaciated bodies. Abaddon's riders led the men like cattle, shambling toward the quarry. Valery felt a pop in his knee, letting out a gasp as his legs collapsed beneath him. One rider lifted him by his hair, another smashed his nose with the stock of his rifle. He choked on phlegm and blood as they bludgeoned his body, too weak to do anything but wince as a bayonet penetrated his abdomen. The others could only continue their march. Excuse me. Broken spirits deaf to the crushing of bone. As they labored without respite, they saw a cross erected at the entrance. Valery's ghoulish body bled from the punctures in his hands, feet, and belly. His head hung limp, and he weakly squirmed. The last of his voice rattled in his throat, and his spirit separated from his body. "Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Now everybody lately is living up in space, flying through transmissions on invisible airwaves, with everything discovered just waiting to be known. What's left for God to keep from his throne? And who will forgive us when he's gone? Okay, hold on. The LGBT laws, it's outlawed. LGBTQ is outlawed in the Brotherhood. All right, Babylon. The winds over Omsk blew cold. Families were awoken by pounding at the doors. The Hell Riders had come, herding all the town folk to the city center. There lay a great circle filled with sticks and straw, demarcated by a ring of blood. 5 stakes of pine were planted at its edges, and wooden spokes ran between them to form a pentagram raised 2 meters in the air. At its center stood the Son of God, crucified in effigy, his body built from wood and rope, his head that of a pig wrapped in a crown of thorns. The audience watched in silent apprehension as the masked men brought captives from the back of carts. Thieves, captives taken on raids, rebellious slaves, worshippers of the Jew god. Each had been stripped of their clothing, their hands tied behind their backs. The riders marched them into the circle, securing their hands to the spokes and leaving them hanging by their wrists. Some screamed, some cried, some wriggled feebly, and some quietly accepted their fates. Some townsfolk whimpered, some closed their eyes, I diverted their vision. Mothers covered their children's mouths so their wailing would not draw notice. From the assembled brothers stepped Abaddon in his her ram skull mask, carrying a trident in her left hand and a torch in her right. In an impassioned voice, booming that all may hear her, she began her prayer. O Lucifer, O Prince of Darkness, I consecrate you a most holy city. I offer you a temple upon the earth. Lend your strength unto me. Impart your blessings on the New Babylon. May you silence the foul agents of Jerusalem and take vengeance upon them. O morning star, may your glory be known by all his people. He kneeled before the straw circle, and through his torch she summoned the fury of hell. 4 dozen voices screamed in terror, their eyes wide as hell raced toward their bodies. Their hair withered, their skin blistered, their very tears were turned into steam. Agonized screams and mortified cries broiled into the surrounding air. A cacophony of suffering pointed at Antonia herself. Smoke billowed upwards, and hell became manifest upon the earth, and the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever. Oh, I thought there would be something that, like, renamed Omsk to New Babylon. Alright, well, after that cheery one, looks like we're now a bit over halfway. Next up is the Redeemed Black League, just over the border. Because they endured, protected by Plan Hydra. Check something here. Okay, Alexander Lazarenko in charge. Let's go. So very bathed. Yeah, just Ave Satinas. Extraordinarily based. I'm gonna call that. Victor's road toward the first reformed Redemptionary Brigade had been long and painful. Within the chaos of the Russian anarchy, he had shaped himself into a thief, stealing whatever he needed to survive from those too weak to protect their possessions. As the shadow of Tabaritsky's regime stretched across Russia, he was imprisoned and sentenced to death. He thought his luck was shifting when the redeemed Black League sprung him from prison during the chaos of the Regency's collapse. However, looking at what was supposed to be his training camp, he knew that thought to be foolish. He recognized the people around him. They were fellow prisoners he knew from his time behind bars, murderers and thieves. They were surrounded by towering steel walls, with faceless guards manning the battlements, staring right through each and every recruit, waiting for them to step even an inch out of line. Their barracks was a crowded tent filled with lumpy beds that lacked pillows or blankets. There was no place for any of them to store personal possessions or even spare sets of clothes. They were expected to wear the one uniform they were granted at all times, a constant reminder of who they were supposed to be. There was not enough of anything to go around. Not enough equipment, not enough beds, not enough food. They were expected to fight for their right to live, for the redemption that they were offered from this new Black League. So that is what they did. Each and every recruit fought for every scrap of food they could, while the masked guards on the wall watched them, assessing them all. Hold on. Stupid mic. Hold on. As time went on, they were privileged to be visited by a small team of drill sergeants. These men would begin the arduous process of taming the wild animals they had created. Week by week, drill by drill, the recruits were trained. Once, when Victor beat another recruit in a fight, he was rewarded with an additional serving of food. The losers sent into solitary confinement without food. These animals will learn. Last crusade against the Russian Empire. Russian enemy girl announces Helltaker 2. Helltaker 2. The Hellening. Okay. Waiting for the event now. What's going on? Hurry up. Waiting on you. Did something go wrong? The Russian Empire did win here. Okay, hold on. Nation of Iron. Alexander Lazarenko had pored over maps of the Black League's territory, searching for the most defendable positions. If the Black League was to survive this great trial and prevail against the masses of barbaric warlords, then they must forge a nation of iron. One that will not bend or break to the invading hordes. To achieve this, he and his staff had put together the Militarized Village Program, an initiative to concentrate the Black League's population into easy-to-defend strongholds and fortify them to withstand any enemy incursion. He and the rest of the Black League knew that these people would resist being relocated, weakened by sentimentality and a poorly placed pride in their heritage. This mattered not to Lazarenko or his staff. These people were not true members of the Black League. Instead, they were mere pawns to be used in the furthering of the Black League's interests. They would be relocated at gunpoint regardless of their wishes. Anyone who resisted would be shot without warning. He and the rest of the Black League knew these people would resist being... concentrating everybody into these strongholds also possessed another upside for the Black League. These peasants would be easy to survey and control. Under the watchful eye of the Black League, Lazarenko could make sure that these peasants served their purpose in the Great Trial. They would provide their labor, their minds, their possessions, their lives, all in an effort towards the League's greater goal. It was the duty of Lazarenko and the redeemed Black League to save Russia from itself. The reason she had failed in all the prior trials was due to her unruly and savage people. Yazov's great failing was his inability to see this immutable truth. This new league will raise generations of true Russians, Russians that will give anything, including their life, for the Black League. A future forged in fire. Okay. You know, she looks slightly like one of those K-pop stars girls. I don't really know K-pop, but they did the League of Legends thing. You guys know what I'm talking about? There's like one girl who's got a mask over her face and some spray paint, and she has like a dragon face mask that moves. And I just remember, I think I heard about it because like this was years ago. I had a friend who was into League of Legends, and then he showed me like an event League of Legends did in Korea where there was a stadium full of people there for a League of Legends event, and they had like these like K-pop artists come out, and they danced with holograms. There was like holograms on the stage. It was yeah, it was like, goddamn, a lot of money in this League of Legends thing, huh? All right. Victor had lost track of how long he'd been at this training camp for the first reformed Redemptory Brigade. The days had all melted together into a sort of haze. Corpses had begun to gather all around the camps, which were more piling up every day. At first, the stench had been unbearable for him and the rest of the recruits, but after a while their noses had gone numb to it. Some of them starved to death, unable to fight for their right to eat. Others had died from diseases due to the increasingly filthy nature of the camps. The rest had been killed either by the guards or their fellow recruits. Those who remained had changed from their time spent within the camp. They had become more violent, acting almost like rabid beasts rather than human beings. Altercations over food or equipment escalated from fistfights into brutal life-or-death combat. Everybody fought like their life depended on it because they all knew that it did. In this place, Victor had no friends, just rivals for survival. Once a week, members of the Black League visited to check up on the progress of their recruits and to provide combat training. These were the only men the recruits truly feared. Anything that could be considered a slight toward a ranking officer was punished severely. A week in solitary for minor offenses, and death for major offenses. Like rabid dogs wearing shock collars, the only thing these recruits truly feared was their masters. During his time at the camp, Victor learned every way he could possibly kill a person. Through instructions from the Black League and his own personal experience fighting for his life, he had been made into a skilled killer. Only the strong could survive the Black League's recruitment process, and Victor refused to die here, no matter the cost. animals shaped into weapons. So this is Hunger Games. No, not really. Like starvation wasn't that big of a deal in the Hunger Games. I do remember reading the books, and it's like, you know, as long as you know what to eat in the arena, you usually are going to be fine. In fact, that's kind of like the game plan is like for the smart people in Hunger Games. It's like, you know, you avoid combat and you just go find a place to hide and you have your food and you just wait. Let's see here. Like, this is, I wouldn't say this is spoilers, but like the backstory for the mentor figure in the Hunger Games, the one that's played by Woody Harrelson, when he did his Hunger Game, if I remember correctly, this was like 10 years ago I read those books, he like just went to the edge of the arena and he kind of just walked a slow lap around the edge of the arena and everybody else was killing each other, and eventually it was just him and one other person, and so he only had to kill one person. But actually he didn't even kill them. I think he like set it up so they electrocuted themselves or something. Land of Tears. Life in Sverdlovsk these days was terrible. Living under the military regime hadn't been sunshine and rainbows, but they made the most of their situation, and the people of the city appreciated them for that. The imperial government, however, had been far, far worse. Citizens forced out of their homes, people shot in the streets. The violence was as limitless as it was senseless. They were not living under the imperial government anymore, though, for the Black League had returned. Although they wrapped themselves in the imagery and style of the old Black League, this new league was very different. Their sworn teutons were no longer the Germanic Teutons. Instead, they found their enemy in the very people of Russia. They blamed their fellow Russians for their failures to defeat Germany time and time again. The result was a regime that did not even see their citizens as people. Instead, they were resources to use in raising future generations of Black League zealots. The streets of Sverdlovsk were lined with men of the Internal Security Directorate. Their faces were covered with gas masks and their arms carried assault rifles. They watched the city's residents, punishing even the most minor of transgressions with extreme cruelty. At night, the men of the ISD raid the homes of everyday citizens, taking any form of personal possession forbidden by the Black League. Harmless trinkets like comic books and children's toys were stolen and destroyed. Like cattle, the people of Sverdlovsk were kept alive only to carry out their uses to the Black League and nothing more. A city of suffering. Come on, next event. Peace in Vietnam! Yub-dub. Yub-dub. Bloody murder. Katerina was woken from her sleep by the sound of gunshots and screaming. She rushed to her window to see what was happening. The Black League had arrived in her village here to cleanse the population. She had heard tales of the Black League raiding villages far from their new headquarters in Sverdlovsk, but she never imagined she would cross paths with them. Her thoughts were interrupted as a stray bullet emerged from her window, grazing her shoulder. Backing away from the window, she knew she had to escape. Rushing to a small shack near her house, another stray bullet grazed her leg. It took all her willpower to not draw attention to herself by screaming. These soldiers fought more like rabid animals than human beings. Their rifles were all mismatched, affixed with sharpened scraps of metal to serve as makeshift bayonets. As they ran out of ammo and their weapons, rather than reload, most of them just dropped their weapons and began to kill people with their own hands or knives. The men of the Black League spared nobody, not even the children. The brutality they unleashed upon this small village was almost puzzling. Katerina had seen her village suffer raids many times before, but those men were sadistic. They engaged in cruelty for their own enjoyment. These men, however, did not seem to enjoy any of the horrors they were unleashing upon her people. In fact, in the brief glimpses she got of their faces, they didn't seem to feel anything at all. They showed zero emotion as they mercilessly slaughtered this village. Not enjoyment, nor regret, nor pleasure, nor pain. It was as if they were not even present anymore. Still in the small shack and fearing for her life, Katerina waited for all of the soldiers around her to be occupied. It pained her to use the suffering and deaths of people she had once thought of as friends to escape this, but she had no other option. When she thought an opportunity presented itself, she bolted from the shack, heading east. Unfortunately for her, someone had taken notice. She tried to run as fast as she could, but her leg was still bleeding. It didn't take long for the man behind her to catch up. The animals finally unleashed. Alright, another cheerful one finished. Next up, we've got the Imperial Airborne Brigades. With the pirates. You know, now we can, wait, how's the song go? Hold on. Okay. So here we have the terrorists from the sky, basically. Here we go. The coming storm. The suffocating blanket of darkness that had settled over Siberia, over Russia, was pierced by a single glowing ember. It glowed softly as Mikike puffed on her cigarette, the smoke billowing from her nostrils as she exhaled. She watched the tendrils of gray nothing dance like ghosts in the cold Siberian air, and she smiled. Ghosts. Russia was full of them, but Mikike was not one. I'm just going to say Ivan. Ivan was not one of them, and neither were her men. If Ivan could use one word to describe the Russian race, it would be survivors. They had outlived the Tsar, the Nazis, and now the Blessed Regent. She sneered, or at least one of the Blessed Regents. Lazarenko was making noise in Vyatka, screaming at Ivan down the phone to organize her helicopters and planes in defense of the city. The commander of the Imperial Airborne Brigades knew an opportunity when she saw one, and Lazarenkov's Frankensteinian state was not long for this world. Out here, in the Serbian waste, she alone commanded air power. She alone had the guns and guts to take what she wanted. Fuck the Regent. Fuck the Empire. Ivan was king of the skies. One by one, the blades of the helicopters began to spin, the engines humming as the Raptors prepared for takeoff. And as Ivan stood watching her warriors ascend into the air, a smile crept across her face. Ivan was not just a survivor, but a predator too. And then you gotta pop in like that Funimation One Piece song, you know. I think back to, you know, so it's like, instead of a Flight of the Valkyries, you're getting gunned down but blasting from the speakers because it's anime. You just hear, I think back to the time when my search first began. I left behind those shores of sand for the endless everlasting world out there. I know that with this burning passion driving me, someday, somewhere, I'll finally see the light I have searched for everywhere. Hold on, let me pull up. Wait. Let me pull some helicopter signs. Let's see here. Helicopter sounds. Here we go. Yeah. What the fuck? Yeah, there we go. When the summer sun is shining, shaking the sails of my heart, I know. When the world that has been hiding has opened up its doors for me to go. Swaying in the troubled waves, from all despair I can be saved. You know, I need gunfire too. Anyway. Like lightning. Litka threw herself to the ground as the plane screamed overhead, throwing up snow as she clasped her hands over the back of her head. You know what? Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this for fun. Okay, hold on. Let's see here. So, helicopter sounds. Here we go. Here we go. And the machine gun. There we go. Okay, now, let's sing! We're going on an adventure! I think back to the time when my search first began. I left behind those shores of sand for the endless, everlasting world out there. I know that with this burning passion driving me, someday, somewhere, I'll finally see the light I have searched for everywhere. When the summer sun is shining up, hold on. When the summer sun is shining, oh, we lost the thing. Oh well, we're having more fun here. Shaking the sails of my heart, I know. When the world that had been hiding had opened up its doors for me to go. Swaying in the troubled waves, from all despair I can be saved. For the horizon on the other side is, is what I aim for. And though I traveled far from where my search began, overseas, green and shores of sand, through the endless, everlasting world out there, I know that with this burning passion driving me, someday, somewhere, I'll finally see the light I've searched for everywhere. There we go. That was fun. Let's see here. When the Sky Speaks Anime. Just in time for the Sky Pirate, Skies of Arcadia, Cursed Edition. I don't know what that is. With Skies of Arcadia, is that like a video game or something? Yes. Gotta say, she's working that checker color. We tell ourselves it's just an adventure to make our crimes more palatable. Black Wall. The throaty roar of the AA guns and the chopping of his propeller flooded Kalashnikov's perception, blocking out all other stimulus as the raging sound beat against his mind. The attack wings slept low over the bunker complex, hoping for an opening in the redeemed Black League's defenses. There were none. This is happening here. The fanatics held fast against the Imperial Airborne Brigades, their entrenched AA guns spitting showers of dirge into the sky. The gunner of Kalashnikov's chopper, a crazed, fearful expression on his face, pumped lead down on the gun emplacements, trying desperately to pick off the Black League defenders. Maybe if their guns could be neutralized. The gunner howled and careened back, clutching his face and screaming as blood gouted from his jaw. Let's pull up that gunfire stuff again. Oh shit, this fucking mic. There we go. Here we go. Here we go. Instinctually, Kalashnikov leapt over the fallen gunner to take his place, gripping the machine gun in his sweaty hands. Just as he began to return fire at the black garbled figures that guarded the concrete hellscape, as casings pinged and rattled around his feet, Kalashnikov felt his mouth dry and his bowels turn to water as an AA gun turned towards his chopper. The flak tore through the soft skin of the helicopter with ease, like a giant punching a fly. The cabin shook violently, and Kalashnikov was thrown from his fleet as the chopper began its death spiral. In a swirl of sound and blurred colors, Kalashnikov was tossed around the cabin, only the grace of centripetal force keeping him inside the helicopter. The howl of tortured metal and the kinetic scream of impact greeted Kalashnikov as his chariot met the rising earth, glass and wreckage showering him and those few who had survived the crash. Pain greeted Kalashnikov, searing, agonizing pain, as he struggled to right himself and extract his limp body from the wreckage. As he glanced out the crumpled door of the chopper, he felt as though he might cry. Rushing through the trench the chopper had fallen into were soldiers of the Black League, rifles at the ready. His pistol was nowhere to be found, and Kalashnikov prayed he would not be taken alive. Today, the redeemed Black Order earned their right to refuse. Okay. Mm-hmm. 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 Hold on. Quiet chat today. Very quiet. Swaying in the troubled breeze. Da, 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 da. But we're getting close. We're getting close, sort of. We at least are at the point where we can be at the top of this and see, you know, ones we've already done. Riders on the storm. Air Marshal Ivan had waved away the reports weeks back. It was preposterous to think that something as mundane as weather could stop her fleet. We said no red, but we always go red in the end. What do you mean no red? What are you talking about? The helicopter fleet had been winterized in preparation for raids deep into Siberia long before the collapse of the Holy Russian Empire, and not once had the chopper horde been grounded. Ivan would not suffer the disobedience of Mother Nature, and no weather report would discourage her from taking what was rightfully hers. That had been weeks ago, and now the, Oh, no, it's fine, Max. No, if you're working on stuff, I totally understand. You don't have to talk. I was just, like, thinking, okay. It's just one of those things when the chat doesn't move for a while. I just think, oh, man, did I disconnect? Anyway. Chopper pilots strained to see through the driving snow of the blizzard, holding their controls in white-knuckled death grips. None dared to turn back, for to return to the air marshal without loot was to face summary execution. The wind and snow wreaked havoc on the blades, and the first chopper that was pushed down to earth by the hoary hand of Boreas landed with a dull crump. Boreas? Is this an Equestria War crossover? The distress of the stricken crew was heard over the radios of the squadron, who initially believed that the Nenets had acquired a rocket. As one chopper scrambled to face the non-existent enemy, it blundered blindly into its brother, sending them both careening to the ground in a suddenly bright orange fireball. When the Nenets scouts found the wreckage, there was no sign of the crew, save for the few corpses frozen solid by the icy winds of Siberia and the wolf tracks leading off into the forest. Mother Nature tolerates no egotists. The epilogue and decisions kind of looks like a broken Omega. Yeah, I could see that. If I wanted to watch a broken Omega, I'd watch Kenny Omega after he left Japan. Oh, get it? Because he sucks now. Oh! Clash of Wings. The bomber exploded in midair, its payload detonating internally, spraying the rest of the aerial fleet with deadly shrapnel. Fighters darted in and out of the bomber formation, the few fighters in Ivan's fleet scrambling to intercept. Choppers and bombers burst with throaty explosions or trailed smoke as they crashed into the Urals below. "Where the fuck did they come from?" shouted the air marshal from her chopper, watching through the canopy in disbelief as the swooping fighters tore into her precious fleet. There had to be a dozen of them, all over older Soviet planes proudly emblazoned with the red star of the old Union. The fighters, longtime heroes of Siberia, were unmistakable. The free aviators! Helicopters fired mounted machine guns furiously at the passing fighters, the free aviators easily spinning to avoid the line of tracers. Ivan's gunner was shoved off by the gun by the air marshal herself, who grasped the machine gun and swung it towards her enemy. The gun shook, bright tracer rounds illuminating the night sky, seeking the death of the witches. A Soviet plane careened to the left as she riddled its left wing with bullets, smoke trailing from behind the stricken fighter. All around, the aerial duelists and explosions shook the sky as raiders and free aviators killed and died alike. As choppers fell from the sky and bombers exploded midair, Ivan felt her gun cough, the last of the casings clinking to the ground. "Fuck!" the air marshal shouted, dismounting the weapon. A cold sweat began to percolate on her brow as she slowly came to the realization that the fight was hopeless. "Pull back! Return to base!" screamed Ivan down the radio as the fleet turned to flee. As though they were harassed the whole way back, the free aviators peeled off shortly before the fleet touched down. Ivan was incensed, coming off her chopper, ranting and raving. "I!" she screamed to raiders. "I alone am master of Russia's skies! When this is finished, the free aviators will be forgotten. Any who speaks their name will be thrown from a helicopter." The raiders stared in disbelief. The air marshal had lost her mind. Well, let's go check out that free army that we just fought. Alexander Vyzvyanik. Of depleted population twixt forest and mountains. When the sun climbs above the horizon, the village of Karpov rouses from their deep sleep. Child and elder alike step out from their wooden houses after their morning meal to dedicate their mind and focus to the daily chores of survival in the harsh Siberian woods. And so has been as far as the collective memory of their little isolated community upon the mountains. A blessing in disguise it came to be, as the rare yet haunting news of the state of Russia at large came to their little community. A sense of simple, blissful ignorance settled in the recent years for them, a fear that if any of them acknowledged what happened to the country at large, the miasma of death that became their motherland wouldn't reach their little idyllic paradise. People would come from their less inconspicuous neighbors carrying scars, horror stories that the people of the village simply didn't want to hear anymore, until eventually nothing but blissful, welcoming silence came from the roads leading to them. No news was good news as far as the people of Karpova were aware. As long as they simply paid no attention to anything outside their borders, besides the occasional pilot landing from this free army to resupply and rest, they were sure they would continue standing, living by the same tick of the clock until the end of time. Let's see here. Kipsu says that you're talking about this portrait, right? That portrait gives me wholesome mommy vibes. Not horny vibes, but like actual kind and caring vibes. Well, isn't that nice? Jesus Christ. Do you think there's mommy ASMR on YouTube? Okay, no, it's not the caring kind. Yep, the top one that pops up is called Your Best Friend's Hot Mom ASMR Roleplay. Jeez, these have less views than the fucking Postal Service stuff. Oh no, here we go. Mommy comforts you after you had a nightmare ASMR. Okay, no, so alright, there's some that are not horny. ASMR Mommy Cleans Your Ears roleplay. 7.1 million! Who is this person? Karuna Satori. 7 million! Somebody cleaning your ears. Cause you got earwax or whatever. Goodness gracious. Holy crap. Good for her. Good for her. Are they more popular than the Yandere ones? I don't know. Never heard of this person. They've got 7 million views on a mommy clean their ears roleplay. I'm in the wrong business on YouTube, man. Guardian Angel. Oh, speaking of mommy. In the skies of Tetsia, Antonia guided her plane, constantly checking outside her cockpit to the shape of the timeless Ob River. She watchfully gazed at the landscape around her, eternal in its serenity, yet undoubtedly scarred by the horrors it had seen. The remnants of charred villages, ruined carriages, and every sign of the communities of her youth gradually were swallowed and reclaimed by the snow and woods. Her mind wanders momentarily to the women before her that guided this plane. What would they think? You know what? I'm making it official. I'm going to post this in my community tab right now. I'm going to do the ASMR Communist Manifesto stream if I hit 25,000 subscribers. Oh, but I'm going to have to, like, make a picture. So I guess we'll come back to this. You respect the hustle. Oh, yeah. When I heard about the guy that did the that he had, like, I guess feminine looking feet, so he made an OnlyFans and he was like raking in thousands and thousands of dollars. The first thing I did was I looked down at my own feet and I thought, nope, couldn't pull that off. My feet are definitely not those that belong to a woman. Could not make it fly and pass, not at all. At that moment, she gripped the yoke harder, eyes daring to burn with unshed tears as memories of friends gone flood her mind, and a single question that she wouldn't ever entertain before starts to worm its way into her consciousness. A certain noise breaks her from her stupor. Glancing to her left, distant dots are seen on the horizon in a familiar odious V pattern. Target practice, just what she needed. Her mind instantly cast away all unnecessary clutter, hands automatically moving to well-familiar switches as she leaned the plane down. Hold on a sec. Starting to worm its way into her consciousness. A certain noise, but yeah, her mind cast away all necessary clutter. The spit of her machine gun tore the helicopters to scrap. She couldn't help but smile and relish in the same feeling so many women felt in the self-same cockpit. I love the smell of burnt Nazis in the morning. Excuse me. Excuse me again, goodness. Okay, let's see. Community tab, pick an image. Okay, desktop. All right. Uh-oh, what's happening? Don't you crash! Okay, I thought I was gonna crash there for a second. Gray water. Hold on. Subscribers. So incidentally, if some of you are wondering, well, how far is he from 25,000 subscribers? The answer to that would be that I am at currently at 24,956. So I need 44. Yeah, 44 to go. Hold on. Well, 44 subscribers to go. Report. Scouts have spotted chemical dump sat lake near Oksino. Poisoning attempt by Imperial Airborne Brigade highly suspected. Non-essential personnel have been allocated, scouted to properly clean the site until the foreign elements can be safely removed. The quality of the water and whatever lay in the river should be assumed to be compromised. Recommended action. Due to the isolationist aspect of the manor villages under our banner and the lack of manpower necessary for a proper information campaign, it is recommended for every pilot of our Air Force to spread the information at every restock and rest landing and to carry their own water and food and report any afflicted village. Patrols around the Oksino and surrounding streams must be heightened to safeguard our water supply for the future. Pilots should mark on their map their rough estimation of location for future cataloging. Make them pay for this. Cowardice is the mother of cruelty. That's a phrase I haven't heard in a long time. Swaying in the troubled waves. So yeah, if anyone wants to pop over my community tab and like that post, I'd appreciate it. I wonder if anybody else has done that yet, though. ASMR, the Communist Manifesto. Has anybody else done that? There's some people who've done just part 1. Is this it, father? The carriage finally stops, the horse neighing as a stock-large man hops down from his seat in the carriage, patting the horse's cheek to calm him down. Yes, Alec, this is it. In contrast with the adult, the youth is a scrawny, thin teenager pulling the cloth of the carriage, glancing at the abandoned wooden manor in the woods. The house looks completely abandoned. The once vibrant oak giving way to a grayish, almost sickly tone, the smell of mold perceptible even from this distance. Is this where you and Uncle Vic... Sorry, I was don't pull my ear! We don't speak the name of monsters in our home, Alec. Do you want to make your mother cry again? No, okay, I'm sorry, just stop pulling it, it hurts. The father finally relents, the youth all but rubbing fiercely his ear. The father takes a deep breath, remembering the person is an insult, the animal that he once shared a roof and a life with. You don't remember, you were really small, but this is where I used to live. Your grandfather's grandfather built this house himself with his own 2 hands and worked this land to sustain his own family all the way down to us. Weren't for Kaganovich, you would have been raised here, not in some small hole in the wall in Chelyabinsk. Anything's better than what's out there, father. The silence stretched between the two of them before the taller man nods. Glad you agree. Wake your mother and sister in the wagon. I'll set the campfire and tomorrow we'll work to put some life back in this house. And then, we will survive. We have enough supplies to last a while, but we must stand on our own now. Your mother and sister will clean up the house tomorrow morning and we'll be out to get anything we'll need. Does that mean you'll finally let me use your gun? No, Alec. You'll have yours. Alright. Oh, popped my toes really nice. Whew. There's a beginner leftist. Okay, so ASMR reading the Communist Manifesto, like I said, there's a few people doing like readings of part 1, but then after that, there's then beginner leftist reading guide, and it's somebody just holding up a bunch of books. It's kind of funny. Zvigan's Crusade. We've heard what you've said, Zvangan. Oh, really? Because you could have fooled me. Algane Tuzkanovska, captain of the 3rd Fleet, rubbed her temple, staring at her leader with a withered, if patient glare. Okay, I don't like how these paragraphs are fucked up. We can't offer the other cheek when psychopaths kill our people. She's listening to him. We don't have the people, Alexander. Everyone's tired of fighting. We fought for 10 last years. We can only endure. We will die. We can't just keep hoping we'll shoot them down together. They keep chipping more and more until they reach Surgut. And then dark clouds over a blue sky. So these two are now going to go to war. It's official. Onwards to the Kazakh Purification Army. So we're whipping back down south here. Interesting flag. Yeah, so this was the sick, portrait. This is really good. You can't beat the Imperial Airborne because they're already considered capitulated. Was that like a bug? The end of days. That's how it looked to a young Sturmoviki stuck in the Cossack plains around Aktau. The scorching sun beating down on him as he tried to fiddle with a shoddy radio. It had been days since his comrades had ceased to answer his calls, and God knows how long since the region had returned to him. He was alone in a land far different from the Serbian village he grew up in, and filled with subhumans he'd sworn to purify in the name of the Holy Russian Empire. In spite of being seemingly stranded in a forsaken land, he kept hoping he'd hear anything on the radio, anything that would give him some semblance of hope. If for a second it seemed as if his hopes were coming true as the radio picked up a signal. To all the Russian dogs still defying these lands, the time of retribution has come for you. The crimes committed by the Red Regent and his rabid dogs her rabid dog shall be avenged for every slight committed against the Cossack people. It shall be punished tenfold. I, Safsa Gazis, Grand Marshal of the Purification Army, make this promise. We will come for you, your wives and children, your precious homes and churches, and your beloved motherland. As you plundered our lands and smothered our blue sky into one as black as your heart, so shall we, the sons of Genghis and Tamerlane, shall bring fear to Russia once more. The soldier felt disgust as well as amazement that a Cossack would even be able to handle any kind of technology, but most of all he felt despair as the prospect of rescue seemed dim, and out of this feeling of despair, fear grew in his heart as he clutched ever so tightly to his rifle. You reap what you sow. Speaking of reaping, I need to set up, I'm going to make some soup. So what I think I'm going to do is when it's been about 2 hours, so like in 10 minutes, I'm going to either pause the stream or stop the stream, and then I'm going to come back. I just need to set up a stew that needs to cook for a while. So Just a heads up. Yeah, I wonder how much those ASMR mics actually cost. You guys know those ones, with the, yeah, you know, they have the ears, the actual ears, so you know what they look like. Here we go, ASMR mic. I'm just looking up online. These are regular mics. Where's the gimmicky stuff with the ears on it? I don't know. Ear ASMR mic. Oh, so it looks like there's several of them. Wait, no, not that, no. Here we go. So this is the one. So it's called a 3DO. A 3DO mic. I'm just curious what these cost. Ah! Stop it. 3DO free space. So copy and paste. Looks like you have to buy them directly from the company. You can't get them at like a market, I guess. Or, no, maybe you can. Okay. They are currently unavailable, apparently. Holy crap! The one on their website, like if you actually go direct to the website, so you buy direct from them, it's $3.99, meaning, you know, $400. And then first sentence of the description is, the free space binaural microphone is the most affordable, high quality binaural microphone on the market. Like, shit. Then again, if you're somebody who's making 7 million view ASMR videos, I guess it's a heck of an investment. Jesus Christ. Anyway, let's get back to it, shall we? Mommy cheats your Ras roleplay. Fuck. Look at them dwelling in their little rundown houses, cheering, laughing, thinking themselves untouchables as they were under the Regent's protection. No more. Days ago, the inhabitants of this small Russian enclave on the banks of the Aral Sea were warned by our leader that the day of retribution would come for them. Yet they stayed here, probably thinking we were but jumped-up thieves. This would be a costly mistake, and their last at that. In an instant, our warriors swooped in the village, lording over the Slavic scum as they gummed them down with no distinction, exulting in making them pay for the crimes done under the centuries-old Russian yoke. As their houses burned and their neighbors lay dead, the remaining villagers tried fleeing to the sea in a last-ditch effort to save their pathetic lives. A futile effort. From the banks of the sea, the soldiers of the KPA would gun them down as they stood on top of their horses. Soon the fresh water of the Aral Sea would turn crimson red as bodies floated away before sinking. Once our sky was blue as the Sky Father intended. On this day it shone like as bright as a ruby. Retribution came. Anybody know who this portrait is? I'm really curious. I'd like to look up art of this person for the Kazakh Purification Army. Swing in the troubled way. God, I got that One Piece song just in my head. Oh. Swing in the troubled haze. From all despair I can be saved. Blood purge. In every family there's a black sheep, the child everyone is ashamed of, casting a giant shadow on one family's pride. And Kazakhstan has plenty of black sheeps. Sheeps. For centuries, the sons and daughters of the Sky Father have been under the Russian yoke, and many have been bewitched by the benefits brought from assisting them. Worse, some had even mingled with those devils, diluting the pure blood of the Kazakh population over time. A divided house now finds itself at a crossroad. Should it find peace in letting old wounds be healed over time, leaving families reuniting despite differences, or some lines not meant to be crossed? Evidently, Kazakh had no want for peaceful reconciliation in his mind as he ordered race traitors to be purged. Day and night, the KPA soldiers took care of the question. They tortured and hanged those who fought under the USSR, leaving their corpses as warning at the entrance of the Aktau. The women were first shamed by having their hair shaved before being left to their fate in the harsh steppes under the blue sky of Central Asia. The steppes turned crimson. Oh, we have an answer here. So, thank you very much, Fran-chan. Beast/parallel world Toka Yatagama from Data Live. Yotagami, excuse me. I'm stupid. Cool. Oh, cool. So we have here the, let's pull up a full body picture for those curious. Ooh, not super high def, but yes, this is the leader of the Cossacks. Oh my. Do you think I could pull off telling her that I'm a Cossack so we'll stay pure if, you know, it's all good, you know? Anyway. Let's move on. Alright, waiting for the next pop-up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. God, get out of my head. She's got some watermelon crushing thighs. Oh, indeed. Cyrus's lament. Amor turned on the scrappy radio that sat on top of his shelf. Luckily, his village had been mostly spared the violence that had befallen his country after the collapse of the Russians that occupied the region. Since then, the radio waves have been absent from the usual drivel the Russians spouted, denouncing the Jews, non-Aryans, and other groups that had drawn the hate of the Holy Russian Empire. Tuning into the mostly commonly used frequency for wide-range broadcasts, and to his surprise, he found himself in the middle of a message. And who is responsible for all this death and destruction? To find the answer to this, comrades, you need not look at the banners of the degenerates and whores that occupied these lands for so many years. The Russians! These subhumans and these complacent with our oppression. The Uzbekis, the Iranians, the Tajiks. And why did they oppress us so? My comrades, the answer, of course, is they were terrified of the demonstrable superiority of Cossack blood. We are an ancient, noble people. Why, one must only look at the incredible achievements of our people throughout history. The speech was quickly silenced by Amir, cutting off the power to radio. He was no fool. He had heard of these xenophobes, the Cossack Purification Army is what they call themselves. But they were no different than the Russians before them. Frankly, Amir was sure that he could replace the references to Russians and Iranians with Jews and Tatars, and it would sound just like a speech from the Holy Russian Empire. Amir decided it was finally time to retire the radio. There was nothing to gain from the word of his fellow man anymore. The cruelty of man realized. It's like that moment when everyone realizes that they don't actually need social media. By the way, I got a link to my Twitter in the description below. I don't do anything on it. I probably should. All right. Here we go. What is spared and signs. Yeah. It's what I for. Buried in the troubled waves, in despair I can be saved. Alright, no black in the blue. Eleanor dismounted from his horse and quickly scanned the small clearing in the forest that they had stopped to rest in. Deciding it was safe, Eleanor returned to where his horse was waiting and helped Christina off the horse. They had been on the run from the KPA for a few weeks now, occasionally sleeping in anywhere they could, whether it be the basement of a sympathetic townsperson or the cold forest floor, huddled together to conserve heat. Tonight it looks as if it would be the latter. As they embraced each other near a small fire they had started, Al-Nur thought back to the night this journey began. Al-Nur had planned on laying low with Christina and waiting out the collapse of the Holy Russian Empire until things returned to a sense of normalcy. However, that normalcy never came. Seemingly overnight, the Cossack Purification Army swept through western Kazakhstan, the news of their brutal treatment of the Russian population moving even faster. Quickly abandoning their plans, Al-Nur and Christina scrambled to vacate their small village. After all, Christina was a Russian, and even worse so, she was an imperial Russian settler, sent over with her family. When the KPA marched into their village, burning down houses and dragging out the few other Russians residing there to be shot on the street, the couple realized there was no time left. Taking only what they could carry and stealing a horse left unattended, they escaped into the night, being pursued by the KPA. If they had been caught that night, Al-Nur was suddenly pulling back to reality by the gentle sobs of Christina. Embracing her tighter, Al-Nur stared into the crackling fire in front of them, steeling himself to face whatever was in their future. A scene of peace in a sea of violence. Alright, we're done. Next up is the revolutionary communes of Orenburg. Right? We're 2/3 there. Okay, nice Ushinka. Ushanka. You know, seen better, but it's nice. It's very cubed, you know. The new land of iron. Oh yeah, this is Kaganovich's apprentice or something, I think. The Bolshevik coup in the southern Urals had been weeks in the making. No sooner had the earliest rumors of Taboritsky's death reached Mikhail Pervukhin hideout in the mountains than he set about preparing for the expulsion of Orenburg's isolated garrison. When it came, it was but a mere formality. Actually, you know what? Okay, I'm seeing here that we're down to single-digit viewers. People just aren't hanging around because I guess they don't want to hear me read. I know some of you are here. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to stop the stream because I got to go set up some soup. It's not going to take long, hopefully no more than like 10 minutes. And then I'm going to start streaming again in what'll be part 4. Okay, so we're going to stop it there. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Conquering History Games, and I will see you all soon. Like 15 minutes, hopefully, absolute most. It's just, you know, it's just stew. I just throw everything in the pot and get it, you know, stewing. All right. Rush, Warlord.